In this episode of the IT Experts podcast, we talk with Mark Stevens and help you to get out of your own way. Welcome to the IT Experts podcast, the only podcast to help MSPs scale to 1 million, and if already there, get to 5 and go faster. At the end of the day, isn't it all about building a business that works for you rather than you for it? I hope you enjoy the show. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the IT Experts podcast, wherever you are. And today we've got another one of the amazing MSP Growth Club clients. We have got Mark Stevens in the house. Good afternoon, Mark. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon, Ian. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Very good. How are you?
Good. Oh, I'm good. Thank you. Getting excited, ready for the show today. This is a really interesting one. Been working with Mark now, I think just for over a year now, haven't we? But he was possibly one of the longest closes in the Growth Hub history. He nearly took 2 years to wrestle this man, put his head around. And what this episode is all about, it's about helping you to share with you an inspiring and a motivating story about someone who's reached out for some help to grow their MSP. If you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling you're in a bit of a rut, if you don't know which way to learn, which way to turn, and all of these kind of things, this episode's going to help you to get some focus, get some motivation, and get the right support that whatever matters for you right now. So I'm going to start this show off by saying, if everybody who listens to this podcast goes out and gets some support to grow their MSP and to grow themselves as a business, then my day is won. Okay. If some people come and join the Growth Hub and you're right fit, then that's great. But that's kind of like not the purpose of this. It's about the ripple effect of sharing with people. There's nothing hurts me more, Mark, when someone says to me, I never even knew this community existed of people who help and support each other in the channel, like CompTIA, like Tech Tribe, like, the PAX 8 events. Other vendors are available and all the other great events that kind of go on around there. And today I want to just share and really dig into Mark's mind about what was going on, what was happening in his head. And if it resonates with you and you go and work with Paul Green, or you go and work with Dan Welling, or you go and work with any of the other guys, the Wingman guys, or anybody else like that, I don't care, because I want you to get the right support for your business at the right time that fits for you. So I just wanted to frame that to start off with. So Mark, introduce yourself, my friend. Who are you? What do you do? Who you help? Where are you? And we got this whole thing about this electric car thing going on, but we need to talk about that another day, because that's the complete delta where we are on that sort of thing. But anyway, introduce yourself, Mark.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ian. Yeah, so my name is Mark Stevens. I'm the managing director for Mark1 IT. We're based in a smallish town, sort of encapsulated between Nottingham, Leicester, sort of Lincolnshire, Rutland Way, called Melton Mowbray. Yeah, it is. Yeah, famous for the pork pies and Stilton cheese as well within the area. Yeah. If you like that stuff, if you like that. What do we do? So yeah, as Ian says, MSP, probably only really identified as an MSP within the last, probably 3 years, maybe 3 or 4 years, so sort of come away from that traditional sort of break fix IT support company mentality. My background really came from corporate, got 13 to 15 years in corporate. So that traditional IT support understanding of how you do things and trying to, remodel that into a business was one of the biggest challenges. So yeah, that's kind of where we are.
Cool. So I can't quite remember when it was we first met. I think it might have been exchanging about the podcast, wasn't it? Some of the things. Hey, really like that episode. It was great. You came along to a discovery day and you learned about kind of what we do. So let's just rewind, back a couple of years. You don't need to go into a great level of detail, but life was pretty hard, wasn't it, mate? There was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of moving parts in your business, and you're, kind of like at that time you were kind of like sub 500,000, weren't you? Had a team around you. What was life like at that time when you got to the point where you go, I need to do something? What was going on in your head then?
Help. It was just literally help. Yeah, it was. You think you know what you need to do. You think you know the best way to do it. And maybe there are, a multitude of different ways to achieve the thing. But it was just understanding where's that help going to come from. So yeah, going back, I think you're right, Ian, probably goes back now 2 years, maybe just around there when we first started talking. And I remember sort of picking up on picking up on one of the podcasts, and really being able to resonate with yourself. I can't remember at that time whether you were linked in with Stuart or whether you guys were
I
just
don't think I
coming
was at the
together.
time. No, we
Yeah.
weren't married then.
That's it. You are now.
Don't
Yeah.
you dare tell me, by the way, that the reason you joined the Growth Hub was because of Stuart's velvet voice. Because if you do, I'm just going to kick this one off because I hear that too many times.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Clearly,
mate.
clearly, I've scarred you with that comment, Ian. Clearly, I've scarred you with that comment. I was one of them. I was one of them. He's just got a silky voice.
Shut
It's
up,
what it
shut
is.
up. Keep talking. I want to talk about you, not him.
Yeah. So where were we? Yeah, going back sort of 2 years ago, MSP had been running approximately 7 years. I think 7 years. Nice sort of growth leading up to COVID. Didn't have our stall in order going into COVID. Got it wrong. Didn't really understand the whole MRR. The monthly recurring revenue. Didn't really got it, but didn't really get it. And going into COVID, that put us into a difficult position because it meant we were leaning on too much project income, project revenue, and of course COVID. Well, we had the immediate upturn, which was everyone's working from home, everybody needs a laptop, we haven't got remote access, we need VPN for those clients with on-prem servers. Yeah, so we had that sort of upturn of work, and then everything just fell off a cliff and went quiet. So yeah, that's kind of where we got to before COVID, and then going through COVID, and then I think really the biggest challenge, and when I really knew I needed to reach out for help, the turning point was around those first sort of year or two of COVID. It was understanding that something was wrong, something wasn't quite right. Something didn't feel right, and I think I'd caught you within just a social media channel somewhere saying, getting out your own way and using that terminology. That's where it came from, and that really resonated. It was like, well, what does that actually mean? Let's actually spend a few minutes to really comprehend that and pull it apart. And it was then that I thought to myself, well, why have we got, why is our attrition rate in the business high? Why aren't we sort of making the progress we need to be making? Why didn't I get things set up properly? A little bit of imposter syndrome started to creep in, being completely honest, completely transparent. And so I started to do a lot of self development, and the book that really turned things around for me was the Chimp Paradox, and realizing where we come from, who we are. Amazing book. It's one of those books that I'll never lend out because I want to make sure I never lose it. It's my reference material. Never going to lend it out. Happy to buy people copies, and I have subsequently gone on to buy people copies. But that book and listening to what you had said all those years ago, really started to resonate with me. And then it was a voyage of self-discovery, so figuring me out, and why am I in my own way? What am I doing? And being brutally honest and transparent, there were two main problems. Number one was ego, which, having gone into that, I now understand that's quite common within MSP owners, whether it's an IT thing, cultured from having all the keys to the kingdom, and all that. Well, the old way of looking at tech was power, which is not a modern way of looking at it, and arrogance. Bit of a mix of the two. I know that's, we're not here to sort of self-flagellate, but it's the reality of what the problem was, and understanding, okay, so because when I started to pick that apart and realized that I needed to get out my own way, I then came across and stumbled across yourself and Stuart, and it was like, okay, what do these guys do? Really try and sort of unpick and understand what is it that these guys can offer. Is it going to offer value? Because at that time, revenue had taken a steep turn. We picked up a little bit of business debt for the first time, going into COVID. And I know a lot of businesses did, going through that. And it's like, okay, well, there's extra expenditure here to work with these guys. I get it. No one works for free, but can we justify it? Are we going to be able to get our money back, turn it round? And I remember coming along to the Discovery Day with yourself and Stuart, and you guys filled me with so much confidence around, look, Mark, this is what we've done. This is our sort of, this is our track record. This is what we've done with other businesses. And we wouldn't be telling you this if we weren't genuinely confident that we could help you. and really help you to move forward. You've just got to start to put things into the right order and focus on the right things and get out your own way again, you know. And so, yeah, you know, going through the personal development, linking up with you guys. Yeah, I paused for a year because that money I kind of needed just to
Yeah.
get by at
You
the
needed to get
time.
in the right place, didn't you? And you needed
I
to be
did.
comfortable that you were, you know, the money. I mean, at that time, you know, you had a lot of people involved in the business, didn't you?
Yeah,
You
we
almost had like
did.
a mini
Yeah.
board, didn't you? And
Oh,
all
that's
these
right. Yeah.
people
I
advice.
forgot
Yeah.
about that. Yeah,
Sorry
yeah,
to
you're
bring
right.
that one back up again,
Yeah.
but you had all these people offering
You're
you advice,
right.
and it was, you know, the thing for any type of business support is that you've got to be in the right headspace and you've got to have the time, you know, obviously, and the money to invest in it and go wholehearted it, and then you get your ROI super quick, you know. And I think at that time, from our point of view, there was a lot of stuff going on, and we know straight away, you know, from an intro call when, you know, when someone's going to be successful with the hallmark of what they've got, kind of, you know, looking at their business, looking at how they are, looking if they got business partners, you know, some of their profitability, their attitude to sales and marketing, their attitude to change and things like that. And we always knew that you were going to be a great fit, but it was about you having the right time to have the right fit, you know, in that time to do that. How was all of that stuff kind of impacting you? Because it was pretty tough at home as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was. It was. So yeah, at the time, my then partner as well was working within the business. So with all that additional financial pressure and you know that self-discovery, that you're absolutely right. Ian. There was a lot of change going on. You know, a lot of change, and it was, you know, change is good. You know, too much change too rapid can be bad because people don't have time to adjust. You know, or to adjust to you and the way that you're changing. And I think ultimately working with, and you're right, we were working with two other business consultants at the time. One of them was through some government backed scheme, that innovation, or I can't remember now the name of it, but there was something there that there was, yeah, a business consultant we were working with, and we had a virtual finance director that was heavily engrossed into the business and was costing the business quite a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, the value that we were being given with the monthly board reports, etc., was brilliant. It was great. And at the time, whilst we were going through a bit of a recovery period coming out of COVID, we definitely needed that. You know, we really needed that help and support. Um, but then it was a case of, I guess the information I was being fed is that, well, look, you can do this on your own. You don't need to invest in more business consultants and support. You can do this yourself. You know, we're signing up for things like Tech Tribe. You know, again, you mentioned our, I'd almost like to call him a friend, sort of Paul Green. You know,
Yeah.
he's such
No,
a
don't
lovely
call him a
bloke.
friend, because if you call Paul Green your friend, he just turns up for Sunday lunch. That'll find out.
well,
That'll find out if he listens to my podcast or not. I'll get a
well,
message
actually,
now.
Kim used to work with him. So my partner Kim used to work with him years ago at the
Oh, really?
yeah, was it? Oh, what was it? Something Trader. Wasn't the Grantham Journal? It was somewhere sort of Lincolnshire way. So she actually knows Paul from a long time back. A long time back. So yeah, that's the connection. So yeah, started to sort of get myself into that MSP community more, you know, and start to, you know, get in the tech tribe, start collaborating with these sort of global MSPs. Yeah, seeing how they do things a little bit differently. And it was then that it started to open my eyes that I can, yeah, absolutely, I can figure this out, right? You know, I'd like to consider myself a reasonably intelligent person. There's that ego kicking in again, you know, reasonably intelligent person, but not getting any younger. You know, don't want to wait around forever to get the business to where it was. Already been doing it for X amount of time. Want to accelerate, you know, and get there within a certain period of time. And things were getting better, working with the clients closer, you know, building those relationships with the clients, you know, giving more value, and really started to understand the profitability of the business, really got into that. And that really started to turn things that then enabled us to have the discussion, you know, and start and actually press the green button.
So it was your confidence around, you know, the money, your ambition, your passion to drive it forwards, the energy that you wanted, the vision that you could see these other people doing great things, and you wanted to be on that bus. Was that the minute when you pressed the button?
Yeah, it was. It was. Everything aligned. You know, as they say, the stars aligned. Everything was in. It was the right time, the right place, and I already knew that I had, you know, the right people, yourself and Stuart, you know, to go to. Yeah, look, it was absolutely, yeah, look, looking back, maybe I could have done it a bit earlier. Maybe I should have done it earlier. I'll
Do you
give
know
you
what?
that. I'll give you that.
It was
But yeah,
it was so funny because you phoned me up. You literally phoned me up. You said, "Ian, I'm ready," and I went, "Okay, let's get a call in." So we got a call. I said to Stuart, I said, he said, "Who was that?" I said, "Mark Matthews." Mark Matthews. That's a whole nother MSP legend. Mark Stevens. He said, I said, "He's ready." He said, "Really?" I said, "We'll find out." Right. So that was great. You kind of knew what we did, and obviously what other people can do for you and help as well. What was the biggest, when you joined? Obviously, it can be quite overwhelming. Stuart and I are not victims of our own success, but we are big givers. We're big, remembering the passion and the reason we put this together was want to help more people, make more impact, change more lives, have a bit of fun, and really get some traction going. So we're always trying to over deliver. So a lot of people sometimes feel they get a little bit overwhelmed. When you joined, what was going on in your head? How did you feel? What was the impact to that? What was most powerful?
yeah. So sort of start off with impact. The biggest. I remember the first call, the first sort of Wednesday afternoon session. It was, and all of a sudden you're in this room with all these other MSP owners, and you're a bit, you're kind of looking around thinking, oh, do I know that company? Are they a competitor of mine? And you're
Oh yeah,
thinking,
that the competitor syndrome.
do you know what I mean? And all that was kicking in, and I was thinking to myself, okay, do I know any of these guys? As we crossed paths, have we offboarded a client to one of these MSPs, before? And what you very quickly, I mean, just to step out into a small avenue and step back into that discussion point again, what you realize after a short period of time is that you're actually all friends. You're all fish swimming in the same sea. There's plenty of food around for all of us, and there's no need for that competitive. I mean, yes, it's competition because we're trying to make our businesses the most attractive and the most suitable, to the clients out there. But at the same time, the knowledge share in there is just outstanding. It is mind blowing what the guys are prepared to do. Only, I think a couple of days ago, I asked for something on Business Premium Azure. There was just some checklist. I think Phil, the guy's name was, not really spoke to him before much, and yeah, he just sent over the document. He's like, "Here you go, Mark, have a look." And that knowledge share is amazing because that expedites the process for us. So we're helping each other, and I've done the same. I've also given back into the group as well. So. Yeah, look, floodgates, floodgates, absolutely. The floodgates open. We pressed the button. We got in there. You gave me access to all the portals, and I'm clicking through it all. I'm like, where the hell do I begin? Where do I
We
begin?
did tell you, but I think you ignored that bit as your shiny ball syndrome kicked in, and that was it. You were all
It,
over it like a squid
it,
on a
it,
diver's mark.
it did, and I was like, okay, so we did it like that, so let's quantify it in percentage of efficiencies. Okay, so how Mark 1 does it currently is 60% efficient, 55-60. Wow, if we do it like this, we're going to get a 90 to 95% efficiency. That's my own
Yeah,
personal
yeah,
calculation.
yeah.
The big one, the big one that stood out for me, the game changer without a doubt, is the know
Mm.
your numbers.
Wow, brilliant. I didn't know what you were going to
That's
say then.
I know you didn't.
Did you see my face go, "Oh my God,
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
going on?"
yeah. Did you think I was going to say Stuart?
Yeah, I thought you were going to say Stuart's Velvet
Yeah,
Tones again.
yeah. That's it. No, know your numbers. That single bit of guidance, support, training alone gives you the confidence to make decisions that without doing that, it's finger in the air and gut feel, which is okay, right? And Stuart's given us that feedback that it's okay, and from my experiences in the past, it's okay to make good decisions because it got you so far. But the reality is, what was there was something that Stuart did during one of the sessions. There was was it like a dartboard or a square broken down into 4 small square boxes around confidence, and it's about
Yes, yes,
risk taking
yeah,
and decision
yeah,
making based
yeah,
upon facts. I can't remember what it
yeah,
is. It
yeah.
escapes me, but yeah, that puts you in the top right corner. It just gives you that confidence to make those decisions and think to yourself, do you know what? Yeah, by adding that extra head, by bringing that, for us, the service desk manager in, the difference that has made into the business has been huge. And The peers within the growth hub have been saying to me, well, isn't it a bit early? You haven't really got enough techs to be taking on an SDM, service desk manager. I'm like, well, you know what? It's one of the best things I did, because I've got an inbox full of requests, quotes that I've got to get out, get out for the size of the business where we are now. Sales admin's coming soon. So I've got a batch of quotes that I've got to process through. And if my head's in ops, I ain't got time to be doing quotes unless I don't want to sleep, which I quite like sleeping.
You quite. Do you know what I was going to say? I'm not quite sure when you do sleep, Mark, because with the conversations we've always had is the fact that you're up at 5 in the morning. You might go to bed a little bit earlier, but you kind of
Half
got
eight,
me into
half eight.
that thing. But that's
Yeah.
just about that passion. It's really
Is-
interesting. You talk about the headline numbers. When Stuart and I got together, he was mainly focusing on high 6-figure, early 7-figure businesses, and mine, because of my love for sales and marketing and getting that right, was generally the smaller guys. And then we just basically getting our operations together in how we can coach. Our vision is to get to 100 help 100 MSPs by the end of next year. Do the little guys need to know about knowing their numbers? And I'm going, I don't know if they're ready for it. And we did it. And for some of the guys, it took 6-7 months to get their head around this. But right now, we can open up our headline numbers exercise in our Power App, and we can see who's putting what effort, who's doing what. Everything shows up in your numbers. The amount of people that you've got, your profitability, what you're spending, what you're taking out, how many motorbikes you're buying, all this kind of stuff as well. It's all in those headline numbers. And, we had one of our clients on a Q&A yesterday, and he is the busiest guy. He's just joined. He's getting a small MSP, but really busy. And he said, you know what? Hour and a half out yesterday to come on a session with Stuart and our finance coach. And he says, it's really made me think this is actually the most important thing in my life right now, is understanding my numbers. So, just we'll come on to a minute kind of where you're at right now. But what I just want to just pause just for a second and say, whatever help and support you get, wherever you go, as an MSP in the space, number one, make sure you're anchored around a plan of action. What you're going to do. Don't just recruit someone and go, this will be nice. We'll have a little chat every month. And then there'll be another little chat next month. And before you know it, you'd have done 6 months. And you go, what have we actually achieved? So build a plan around what you want your business to deliver, building a business that works for you rather than you for it. That's a key one. Knowing your numbers and knowing your ROI. If you're bringing in, marketing and sales support, okay, I'm going to invest. It's going to be an investment, but when am I likely to get my money back? What does good look like from you? What do you need from me to enable good to look like? How does that going to show up in my numbers? And I'm going to hold your feet to the fire to make sure that you do deliver that, and also make sure that you're surrounding yourselves. Tech Tribe, CompTIA, vendors do amazing community events. Be the smallest person in the room. Be the smallest person in the room so you can kind of like learn. So, if you take anything away from this podcast, please take those last 2 minutes and just do that. What's life like now, Mark?
Life now is, oh God, yeah, much better. Much better.
Nervous
And
about that one as well.
yeah, no, life is much better. I mean, don't get me wrong. We have just recently gone through a few staff changes. We've brought in some people, and we know how hard it is to find the right people, right? The right fit. You've firstly got to develop the right seats, and then you've got to get the right people to sit on those seats. That sort of bit for me, that focus has been, do you know what? Take more of that gross profit and plow it into the right people and employ people that are smarter than you. You want to be the dumbest person in that room, when you surround yourself within your team. You really do.
Because you used the frameworks, didn't you, to help you to design and build your new team, is it effectively?
Yes.
So you got the right people in the right roles. How did that kind of like feel for you when you were going through that? Because it was a bit clunky for a while, wasn't it?
It was key to invest in the right people, to make sure that you're not just cutting a few corners and saving yourself maybe 5K, 7K, 8K, maybe 10K in some cases, and not investing in the right people. Make sure you understand what that seat looks like. Get those job specs clearly defined, so you've got clear demarcation points on what you expect them to do. So there's no ambiguity. You're going to get overlap within a small business. We all sort of share hats and swap hats occasionally when we're on holiday, but ultimately get those seats defined, invest in the right people, make sure when you're bringing them on board, you've got that, induction and that training plan so that they see where their career is going. Didn't really focus on that as much properly before. So all that framework's really helped. And ultimately that has, so where are we? We're at the point where, we've got another senior tech joining us Monday, next week, with lots of experience in the MSP sector, again, investing in the right people. And what you realize is, and even though you know it, you don't do it. And I don't know why you don't do it, because you should just do it. So really, logically, I'm kind of sounding stupid saying this, but logically, if you invest in, let's go to cars, because you mentioned cars at the start of the podcast, so let's do it. So, if you want to do a sort of quarter mile sprint, and you want to perform quite well, you're not going to buy an entry level, I don't know, what car are we thinking? Entry level Fiesta Mini? Are they still on for sale today? I think they are. You won't buy an entry level one and think, I'm going to knock the competition out the park with my 1 litre engine and my, quarter mile time of 35 seconds. You got to buy a racehorse. You got to buy your Ferrari or your Tesla or your Bugatti.
Tesla.
Or what was
Yeah, but
that
no, but
one
you
that
want
you
to hear
said?
it coming, mate.
I don't
You
know.
need to hear it coming. I knew you were going to flip
I
that
don't
in
know what
there,
you're on
yeah.
about.
So what you should have said, if you want to do a quarter of mile, but sound like you're doing a quarter of mile, then you need to buy a car, not an electric milk
Not a
float that goes
big go
fast.
kart. Yeah.
I get your point.
Yeah, you get my point. So the point is, spend that money on the people, and spending that money on the people, that frees up your time. That's the bit I've not mentioned yet. It frees up your time. It gives you, like you always say to me, Ian, and I like to steal some of your terms here, borrow them, is headspace. You need
Yep.
headspace, because without headspace, you're just doing the do all the time.
Yep.
You're
Stuck
working
in the bed.
in the business. You're in your own way. You're stuck. So that headspace that they create, if you've got that growth mindset, if you've got that ambition to take your business to the next level and really accelerate, you need headspace. And look,
Yeah.
like you said earlier, I'm in bed 8:30, up at sort of 4:30, get in the gym for an hour, start working at 6 o'clock. That's my routine. That's my life. And, I know it sounds like, wow, that just sounds like hell. Who would want to live a life like that? But I enjoy it. It isn't a
Yeah,
job.
exactly.
It's a hobby, and I genuinely mean that. Will I want to work this hard forever? Probably not. But right now, whilst we're trying to build a business that, as you say, works for me and I don't work for it, I've got to put the energy in, and whilst I'm young enough to put the energy in as well, it's probably worth saying that.
We've just recently done reset your annual plan. When you came in, we looked at some of the targets we put for the first year, which at that time were quite aggressive, and you smashed the life out of them. So it's the last time I'm believing what you say. What does the next year look like for you? What does success look like?
Well, success for us is definitely going to be an extra head within sales, sales admin person, so take us up to a count of 8 in the total. And I would like to think, where we're going to be, I think we could at least hit maybe 600,000, maybe more by the end of next year, which for us is, it's kind of over 100% growth in quite a short period of time. But it's just because we're doing things differently. And apparently I've got the gift of the gab when it comes to sales. This is what I'm told. This isn't me, I'm just passing it on, which kind of helps when you're running the business to be able to sell stuff, right?
And from it, you don't need to share the exact number as well. But one of the key things that we always work on day one is that profitability level, isn't it? Because turnover is great, it's nice and flashy, and it's it's all that good stuff. But it's about that profit level, and where we're trying to get to. Not trying, sorry, we don't try and do anything. Where we get our clients to is anything north of 50-60% gross profit and north of 20% net profit. And the turmoil that you went into and trying to build that profitability up, so you've got money to invest in the right people, you've got money so you can enjoy the things in life that you want, and all of that kind of good stuff as well is ever so important. So getting some more people, hitting 600k. And what does home life look like? You're going to build that garage?
Yeah, it's a cabin. It's a cabin in. It's a cabin.
Sorry.
Garage. Well, no, look, it's good. It's balanced. All when you remove financial pressure, right? Because we had something that I didn't mention earlier. Going into COVID, things were good. Growth about sort of 20%, 25% a year on year growth going into COVID. We kind of set our stall out a certain way. And I think I mentioned to you that we bought a house, we moved into a bigger house during lockdown when the rules were relaxed. And so we set our stall out, and put a lot of financial pressure on ourselves. You can imagine what that was like, from, things I've mentioned earlier. So home life now, well, that pressure's gone. It's probably been gone for sort of 9 to 12 months now. So you can start to breathe again. You can actually start having holidays again. You can actually start to think about how do we sort of invest, back into the business. So you can have that salary, and this is a key thing for business owners. So you can have that salary, but actually, if you can survive on less and you reinvest that into the business, what could you do with that money? Do you know that way of thinking is not something that I was used to sort of pre-COVID? I use pre-COVID as a term. It's going to be a thing, isn't it, for our generation especially. Oh, yeah, do you remember
Of course it
pre and
will. Yeah. No,
post-COVID?
do you remember that pandemic thing when we bought all those masks and queued up outside Sainsbury's for 6 hours?
That's it. That's it. So it's much better, Ian. Thank you. It's much, much better. Yeah, home life's better. Work life is better. We're still working our socks off, but we're actually excited. We're genuinely excited, and the team I've got here are excited, and they want the same for the business. And that's the key thing as well, is trying to recruit people into the business that can see that vision. You've shared that vision with them, share that mission, and make sure whatever you do, they want to come with you, and that they're massively invested. I don't know the secret to that. That's a bit of a gut feel by, asking and listening and understanding what they're giving you back, but really pay attention in those interviews to what they're saying. And the first sort of three months, the probation period, really listen, really dial in. And you know what? If they're not right, something I didn't do pre-COVID was make the tough decisions, which is if they're not right, just get rid of them. And I know that sounds a little bit sort of, a bit of bullish and harsh. Don't get me wrong. Always spend time developing people, put them through. But if you feel like you're just not getting anywhere, like you're stuck in a quagmire, don't be afraid to make that tough decision, which is to recruit and replace.
Mark, thank you very much for your time this afternoon and been, open, honest, vulnerable and sharing with the community. I know the only reason you've done this is so that we can help more MSPs and the channel can help more MSPs and help them from stopping to, suffering and going through all the horrible things that we kind of hear as a techie business owner, most people, and when they go through. Any last comments, summaries, suggestions from yourself, Mark, before we sign off?
Yeah, thanks, Ian. Yeah, look, I would say that you're absolutely right. I don't think techies, people who come from working in corporate, that we're natural business owners, that we're natural leaders. And I think working with the Growth Hub absolutely will help shape you, amongst other communities, will really help shape you into being that business leader and to really not be afraid to reach out and get help. And I remember a time not too long ago where there was that feeling of despair, when sort of we had a couple of members of staff that were leaving at a similar time. One was a surprise, one wasn't. I parked in a car park in Nottingham somewhere, and I just thought I'd call you. I thought, is Ian available? Is it, why am I calling Ian? Why am I calling one of my guys that, I thought I'd just give Ian a call. Just when he was there, just to tell him what's going on, see if he can give me any nuggets. And, you were really, it was great because you had the time, you picked up the phone. And yeah, look, it was 5 minutes, wasn't it? It's 5 to me. You were driving somewhere, I think your car was breaking down or your wife's car was breaking down or something at the time you were mentioning. Yeah, couldn't have been a Tesla. Yeah, look, you just put my mind at rest. You just absolutely put my mind at rest. I came off the call feeling much better. You said, look, Mark, let's get a 20 booked in. And, I'm just super grateful for that support, really super grateful. And like I said to you the other week, it's nice to know you're there. Do you know what I mean? I know we have all this, the work, the framework and everything we're going through, this whole process, but you're always there. So whenever things get tough, and if you're like me, you're 100% shareholder, 100%, you're the only director, it can be lonely when you don't have a business partner. And who do you talk to? And you guys are there. You are like a business partner. You will help us to get to where we need to be and do whatever it
That's the
takes.
plan,
And so,
mate. That's the plan, and
well,
that's
it's
the values,
working.
and that's
It's working.
good, man. Good stuff. And that's also, Mark's obviously been very, open today about the Growth Hub, but that's also the same with all the other things. And I honestly mean that. If you listen to this podcast and it's made you think, go and find the right support for you. If you don't know what the right support is, actually just ring, get hold of me, Self and Stuart on LinkedIn, and have a chat. And if we're not the right people for you, we'll go and point you to someone who is the right person for you for where you're at in your business right now. Thanks again, Mark.
Thank you.
I hope this has been a massive use and massive help for everybody listening. Here's to your success, mate, for the next year. And watch out, we'll start talking about upgrading your programming so you can get in the room with some bigger boys next year. Then I think that'd be a good idea. Put that on the plan. Thanks again, Mark. Been really grateful and totally appreciate your help. See you later. Take care now. See you on the next one.
Thanks, Ian.
Hang on a minute, just before you go. And if you're curious about how this episode links with the ability to scale your MSP to $1 million, or if you're already there, accelerate to 5, then we want to invite you to come and take the MSP Mastery Quiz. And in just 3 minutes, you're going to get a 360-degree scan of your business where you can identify the 1 or 2 tactics that can help you find more time, engage and align your people, and help generate more leads in your MSP. It's really simple. Just click on the link in the show notes. And if you have enjoyed this episode, we'd love to get some feedback from you by means of a rating, review on Spotify or iTunes or your podcast platform of choice. We really appreciate every single one of them. Now you can go and enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to catching up and connecting with you soon. All the best now.